We have 6 total candidates running for 2 spots and 2 candidates for mayor running for obviously 1 spot. And if you wish to learn more from the candidates following the forum, there will be 15 minutes in between this candidate forum and the school board. Feel free to reach out to them personally, individually. And also one more moment before we open for the opening statements. I want to be throwing a lot of dates out here because we have early voting is going to be starting, but there's still time to register to vote. Voting registration ends on October 10th. Early voting starts October 11th. If you're not already registered to vote, you can do it right after this forum online. You can take your phone out and do it right there on voteohio.gov. And then early voting runs through November 5th. Election day is Tuesday, November 7th. We have all that information on the voteohio.gov. That's the Secretary of State's website, or you can reach out to the Warren or Butler County boards of elections, and they will have that identical information. And without further ado, I think we are ready. Ms. Asbury, opening statements. You have 2 minutes.
Well, let's see. Check, check. I am so honored to be here. I want you to know Middletown has come so far, and I want each and every one of you, the citizens, everyone here, to give themselves a round of applause because there is a dawn, and it's a new day. It's a new day. We have a lot of challenges that have been, but every city has that. And of course, I couldn't be more proud to be a Middletonian. I have seen the light shed upon our city and the change that it seems like has happened overnight from darkness to day. Our citizens have come out of their houses. They're enjoying their town again. They love Middletown, the same as I do. And we need that. We need to keep focusing on that attitude because if we come together, we are stronger. And we need to embrace the changes that are happening, that are positive, and keep our garden growing because it's growing well. And I do appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Mr. Castle, 2 minutes.
Good evening. I first want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I also want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. My name is Clayton Castle, and I am running for Middletown City Council. When I'm out talking to the people in the city, I get asked a lot why. Why are you running for City Council? Why should we elect you? And I always pause, not because I don't know what to say, but because I don't know where to start. I'm the son of a police officer and a nurse. I'm the husband of a public school teacher. I myself work at a public university. Having a servant's heart is at the core of our family values. For me, running for council is my servant calling. Since moving here, I've fallen in love with the city and want to see it thrive. So how do we do that? First, we support our police and fire. Top-notch public safety is essential and critical for the vitality of any community. We support our children and our elderly, who not only need our help, but they deserve our help. We find ways to connect as a community and build relationships with each other in surrounding areas. We make sure all of our residents in all of our neighborhoods are being listened to and not ignored. We build each other up, not tear each other down. Finally, we dream big. Why can't we have an aquatic center? Why can't we have a Chick-fil-A, a Target? With the right people and through strategic investments and community partnerships, anything is possible. Middletown has a rich history, but it also has incredible potential for a flourishing future. Now is the time to realize that potential. Now is the time to act. Now is the time that we build tomorrow together. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Fernando, you're up. 2 minutes.
Ferrando.
Ferrando, I'm sorry, my apologies.
Good evening. I'm John Ferrando, a candidate running for Middletown City Council. Thank you for coming out tonight. Or if you're watching online, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to the Chamber as well for holding the forum. You are here tonight or watching online because you care deeply about the current and future state of Middletown. I'm sitting here tonight because I too care deeply about Middletown, but more specifically, about moving Middletown forward. I'm running because I believe in the promising future of Middletown, improving the quality of life for the citizens here in Middletown, economic sustainability and growth, public safety, and redevelopment and growth of our downtown, as well as the East End, all matter to me. I have been civically active in one aspect or another throughout this community ever since we moved here 15 years ago. From coordinating citizen-driven events and initiatives, such as the Port Middletown Arts and Music Festival that's ran in this community for 8 years, to sitting on the board as vice president over the Holiday Hoopla seasonal event that's lit up downtown with amazing light features and an outdoor ice skating rink for the past 3 years, as well as volunteering on committees like the Visitors Bureau and DMI that help serve our community through tourism initiatives and civic events that support and impact our city and the lives of the people who live here. I've also been an instructor at the Middletown Arts Center and cheerleaded and championed the arts throughout this community. I'm known in this community as someone who manages multiple projects simultaneously, from conceptualization to completion, creating, implementing, and managing long-running events in our community, which provides residents with something to do, as well as promotes a regional draw. I'm John Ferrando, and I'm running for Middletown City Council.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mulligan, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman. First, thanks to you for personally taking your time to be the moderator tonight, and the Chamber of Commerce for putting the event together, and our city staff for providing us a venue. I'm Joe Mulligan. I'm seeking to serve as the mayor of Middletown because I'm excited about where we are as a city, and I'm enthusiastic about where we have to go in the future. It's been a great honor for me to have served a couple of terms on council already. Middletown has great opportunities, we've met challenges, and it's time for us to meet the moment in the years ahead. First, my professional background. I started out in media sales and sales management, working for cable and TV operations in Columbus, Pittsburgh, and then in Dayton. In 2006, I decided to come home to where my roots are here in Middletown, family and friends, and best decision I ever made. In 2009, I decided to change course and get a law degree. I enrolled in a 2-year program at the University of Dayton School of Law. So since 2011, I've been a practicing attorney at firms in Dayton and Middletown, concentrating mostly on civil work, estate planning, probate, civil litigation, things along those lines, and help families, small businesses, individuals with legal issues. With 2 terms on council, I'm proud of the track record. We tackled some big issues. First and foremost, road repaving. I championed efforts to meaningfully address roads for the first time in a generation. With the generous support of taxpayers, we've invested $50 million over the past 2 years. That accounts for one-third of our city streets and 200 lane miles. We've added to our police and fire staffing. Our council initiated funding for the new fire stations, and those will be built out over the next couple years. And all in all, just proud of the economic development efforts. $1 billion since 2011.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mulligan.
Thank you.
Ms. Slamka, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Michael, to the Chamber, everyone here this evening, to those of you watching at home. My name is Elizabeth Slamka. I am running for mayor of Middletown, and I believe I am the best candidate to lead City Council and move Middletown forward in a positive direction. I have the leadership skills, a lifetime of involvement in our community, and the business experience to get the job done. I was born and raised in Middletown. I grew up in my parents' family business, Central Pastry Shop in downtown. Managing and operating a business has given me clear understanding into the challenges and needs of our business owners, and I am the candidate with the most business experience. I attended Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, where I graduated with honors with 2 bachelor's degrees and a minor. My professional work experience has been extensive. I have worked locally in Middletown City Schools, at Bishop Fenwick High School, and at the Middletown Public Library. I have worked overseas in Spain, and I have worked as an assistant director of admissions at a Philadelphia college. As for public service, I have been involved in our community from the time I rode a tricycle in the Middletown Bike-a-thon at about 2 years old to being a candy striper at the Middletown Hospital and High School, volunteering for Midfest International, sitting on the board of directors of Downtown Middletown, Inc., being an active member of the Unhoused Action Circle, which assisted the Middletown Health Department with finding solutions for homelessness, and being an executive board member for a new nonprofit looking to partner with the region and find solutions to homelessness county-wide. I know this city. I understand the needs of this community, whether it's Main Street with its historical homes and their challenges, the 3 census tracts and their issues where there is a shorter life expectancy of 12 years, or looking for ways to improve business on the East End. I can represent our diverse population in Middletown. And I care about listening to the wants of the community. Listening is not the answer, but it is the first step in delivering on the needs of our residents. And as we support all of the people, the entire city is lifted up. I'm part of this community. I'm committed to the people who live here, and I look forward to serving as the next mayor of Middletown. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Wellbaum, 2 minutes.
Yes, my name is Jeff Walbaum, and I'm an educational assistant for West Carrollton City Schools, and I'm running for Middletown City Council. I grew up in Kettering, Ohio, and graduated from Fairmont in 1994. I have lived in Middletown for the past 7 years and married lifelong Middletonian Lara Russell Walbaum. Now, Lara's family has strong roots in Middletown. Her grandfather was head of the water department here in Middletown, and her dad worked at the Middletown Paper Board, and her mother was a nurse at Middletown Hospital. I have a BA in history from Wright State University, and I'm a former intelligence analyst who served in Iraq during the invasion of Iraq in 2003. I helped independent Gary Leitzel win the Dane mayor's race in 2009. During that time, I became a member of the Southeast Dane Priority Board for a year, and in 2014, I helped start my neighborhood association and was president for a year, so I have experience below the city council level. I'm running on the platform of improving public safety by hiring at least 5 to 10 more police officers and develop or start neighborhood associations to work hand in hand with the police, which is going to be vital. Also, we need to bring more businesses downtown and work to provide the development of the town mall area. The main motivation for me running, however, is to help improve public safety. Unfortunately, 3 years ago, when my wife was coming home from her part-time job, she was threatened and harassed by 5 or 6 youths from across the street who were drinking and partying. I went outside to make sure my wife was okay, and unfortunately was severely beaten and had to go to the hospital. There is no reason why this should happen in Middletown. I will work tirelessly as a member of council to make our streets safe for all of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Mr. West, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman. Thank you, Mr. Pierce, excuse me, Chamber of Commerce, those in attendance and tuning in online. Thank you for your time and consideration. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Steve West, and I'm seeking a seat on the City Council. I was born and raised on the west side of Cincinnati, graduated from Oak Hills in 1999, which seems like an eternity ago. And then after that, I joined the Navy. Lived in San Diego for a few years. When I finished my enlistment, decided time to get back to Ohio, and chose Middletown. Middletown because of the geographic location, close to Cincinnati, close to Dayton. My wife worked in Kettering at the time, and I was able to pursue a degree at Miami University. Geographic location is one of the best assets Middletown has to offer. Professionally, I work in the Department of Defense as a contractor, and I primarily program manage research and development contracts, both here stateside and around the world. Philanthropically, I've volunteered for years in the community, coaching youth sports at the Y, St. John 23rd, and also I'm currently a school board member at St. John the 23rd. And right now, a lot of people ask, like, why are you running? I mean, it's something I said I probably wouldn't ever do, but I think everybody up here can kind of say that. But over the years, we've seen so many changes, so many positive things in this city. And for years, Cincinnati and Dayton wanted to become a metroplex. And the last piece of undeveloped land was Exit 32. And so we're about to change that. We're going to make some key investments in public safety, infrastructure, and town mall. Town mall will be next. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. had a question planned first, but a lot of you had answered it already, so we're going to skip into my second question here. So I had to make a few notes of who is going first and rotating. So, Mr. Castle, this first question is for you. We have 1 minute for these questions. The business community would take the position that collaboration is a needed skill to perform the job of an elected official. The decisions of the next council will have an impact for the community over the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even longer, knowing our location in Southwest Ohio and Butler County, and what may be in our near and possibly distant future, what could be in our future. And sorry, I re-revised this and I didn't edit it very well, so my apologies. And who could be a collaborative partner for the future of Middletown?
Well, I think when you talk about collaborations, there's a lot of people you need to collaborate with on city council. First of all, you need to collaborate with the residents. You need to know what the residents want, how the residents feel, especially if someone's going in their neighborhood. You want to know to make sure that they have the support as well. Second of all, you need collaboration with the business community. You know, people are going to come to Middletown, and they're going to patronize these. They're going to go to these businesses and buy their services, and and go to these places and talk hopefully well about them. And you also need to collaborate with other government entities. So for instance, the town mall, I know we were collaborating a little bit with Warren County. Warren County is a great partner in the business community, and if it's in Butler County, we should collaborate with Butler County as well. So there are several stakeholders that you need to collaborate with and to consult when making a decision.
All right, Mr. Ferrando. Same question. The collaboration. Who would you collaborate with, and on what projects would you collaborate with that will have a pretty lasting impact, especially in the near future for the city of Middletown?
Sure. What we need to do as a city or as council and as the administration is we need to stop siloing ourselves to just the management here and the administration here within the four walls of our city building. We need to be able to reach out to county leadership. We need to be able to reach out and have a better relationship with state representatives. It's really going to take reaching out to them and bringing them to our table and seeing what our neighboring cities are doing and how they're doing it so well and so robustly, and how we need to be able to bring them to the table or meet them where they're at and figure out what are they doing that is making their communities just boom with success. And so, yeah, I agree with Mr. Castle. The collaboration has to start with the vision of the people and policy and enacting our own master plans that we have. We have master plans that we've spent thousands of dollars on, but not implement fully.
Great, thank you very much. Before I have you off, I apologize for looking back. I'm used to standing off to the side so I can keep an eye on the clock as well. So my apologies for that, but it's going to happen all night. Mr. Mulligan, same question.
Thank you. As far as collaborating on important projects, I think one thing in our city's master plan is resilient neighborhoods. And some neighborhoods in Middletown are doing just fine. Others are struggling a little bit. Others have suffered disinvestment for decades. We would look for internal partners through a group called Middletown Connect. Ms. Slamka mentioned the work that they've done on 3 census tracts. They have a state grant. They've formed ambassadors in different neighborhoods. They've provided some feedback to us from residents on what they need. And it's not necessarily crime being top of mind. Sometimes it's things as simple as lighting or smoother sidewalks, or we need a laundromat in this area. So we can use those internal partners to collaborate to find solutions for those neighborhoods. On a grander scale, we would be looking externally, the Butler County Port Authority, the Land Bank, maybe our own Port Authority, to take our land bank to 2.0, to where we're not just demolishing homes, instead we are rehabilitating homes and providing some infill housing.
Thank you very much.
Infill housing.
Ms. Slamka, same question.
Okay, so thank you very much. And I think that partnering again with like what John Ferrando said, was that we have a very big need to respond to our citizens' needs and wishes, and also partner with investors developers that want to come here. Middletown has a lot to offer. As far as big projects, I could see utilizing some of our great assets, our position on the I-75 corridor, nearby to the airports, two international airports. I could see us looking also to bring more businesses, perhaps from, that will give jobs to people in the workforce that we already have here in Middletown, factories, manufacturing, things like that. So I think we can partner with countywide as well, with Butler County and our neighboring cities.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Welbom.
Yeah, there's basically many different groups and individuals we can work with to collaborate to help Middletown. Of course, the citizens are the most important, small businesses and large businesses, especially small businesses because they're the lifeblood of our community. We can also collaborate with the police to ensure public safety. If we don't have public safety, we're not going to be able to accomplish anything, and our citizens need to feel safe. And we also need to collaborate with county commissioners, state reps, and state senators, and investors and developers. And I'll be the #1 advocate for public safety when I'm elected to city council. If we don't have public safety, we will not be able to reach our goals. And I will work full-time at my job for 30 to 40 hours a week here to help our community, because the city council will be my top priority to help our citizens achieve our goals and realize our vision for the future.
Great, thank you very much. And Mr. West.
Yes, thank you. I think Mr. Mulligan hit the nail on the head. When you ask, a broad question like that, it really depends on scope and scale of the particular project. If it's something like, for example, the Sunny Hill Community Center, obviously we're going to rely on the community feedback, staff feedback here within the city building. On a much larger scale, the city has to be agile enough, councilmen, we have to be agile enough to leverage community assets and potential state assets, whether it be funding, lessons learned. But first and foremost, the most important thing is the collaboration piece. There's neighboring communities we should have monthly meetings with. A lot of the projects that we want to take on, they've already done, and they've done them well. And so I think there's a lot of lessons learned that we can take from that and implement within our city.
Great, thank you very much. Now, our next question is just for the mayoral candidates, Mr. Mulligan and Ms. Slamka. We'll start with Mr. Mulligan first. You're going to be one of 5 voices or 5 decision makers on the city. Describe how you can successfully advance improvements when you alone can't force change.
Well, we work as a team. You're right. I mean, council, through the charter, is ceremonially led by the mayor, but I just have one vote. The mayor just has one vote on council, as other council members do. And one thing I did learn through the leadership program that the chamber put on is, men and women equally informed seldom disagree. So if we can get ourselves educated on whatever topic, ask the questions of staff, collect the data, think about the unintended consequences of what this legislation might do, what the intended consequences are. Is this in the best interest of the city? Does it comport with our master plan? As long as we're answering yes to a lot of those questions, and it agrees with what the directives we've given city staff in our annual retreat, and feedback back and forth throughout the year, then normally we would be agreeing on legislation.
Thank you very much. Ms. Slamka?
Thank you. To advance improvements, we do need to build consensus. So how that can happen with people of differing opinions, sometimes strong. Well, one of the skills needed to perform the job of mayor is to have very clear, unbiased judgment, but also the ability to temporarily suspend what you think personally sometimes in order to truly listen to somebody else, the information they give you, and then consider it to not be affected by maybe someone's agenda, but also just to not take sides except for the side of the people. So this kind of perspective can go a long way. This kind of leadership can go a long way in building consensus among people who have those differing views. We do not always have to agree on every point, but we do need a leader who can hear what is said, sit comfortably with discord, and then weave the threads through the commonalities so we can all move forward as a team with the task at hand. I do think that that kind of leadership is what is key for council. Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. Now, my next question is going to be just for the council candidates. I want to try to mix it up a little bit where we have just mayoral candidate questions and council questions, but running a government is also not just about collaboration, but compromise. So for the council candidates, how do you approach compromise when you disagree with a fellow council member or the administration? Mr. Ferrando, you're up.
Yes, I would approach that with, you have to have the willingness to be able to listen. You have to have the willingness to be able to say when you don't know. And it's okay not to know, but go and find someone who does. Seek out experts in the area that you might lack in order for you to be able to make a sound decision collectively. So you have to be able to listen. You have to be able to bend a little. There are moral issues, right? And those issues, we will stand by, and hopefully we stand by collectively. But when we come to disagreeing, we have to be able to research that and seek expert advice, and then be able to come together as a collective body to make the best decision that we can collectively make for the city. We can't lose sight that our job up here is not to push our own agenda, but to hear the voice and the needs of the people we serve.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Welbaum.
Yes, the most important skills that are needed for this job is going to be being able to listen and be open-minded. We need to work as a team and collaborate together, no matter our differences. And also being a good analyst, we need to listen to other opinions, especially from the citizens, along with our other city councilmen. Now, I have the leadership skills that'll be able to, so we can work together as a team. I've learned that in the Army, and as a growing up playing sports and all that. I learned a lot of teamwork, so that's what's going to take to achieve what we need to do here on the council and to make Middletown a great place to live.
Great. Mr. West?
Yes, when it comes to compromise, a lot of times, and I think in recent years we've seen some very large issues come through council, and most of the time when the lack of compromising comes from lack of understanding. When there's two different sides, when we look at things politically, we look at city issues. It could be issues on a national scale, city issues. A lot of times there's a lack of understanding on both sides. And so through compromising, it's really understanding the opposition's viewpoint. What would it take? Is it something we can compromise on? Like Mr. Ferrando said, unless it's a moral issue, right? We'll all steadfast on those. But most of the time, the ability to communicate and logically think through things, and if there's more research needed to gain a better understanding of what the disagreement is, that's what you have to do. You have to do what it takes.
Great. And Ms. Asbury, I made an error because I didn't look. Can you put 2 minutes on the clock? Because I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer both the questions at the same time. So first, the first question is the collaboration. What do you need to do to collaborate to set Middletown up for the future? And then also, how do you compromise with your fellow council members? 2 minutes.
Well, there we go. I believe that since we do live in the metro area, being both northern Cincinnati and vicinity, South Dayton and vicinity, that it is important to collaborate with our surrounding metro areas, with its peoples, which I believe has been happening with no effort. People, they want to be here. So I think it's important to start collaborating with not only our smaller businesses that are here, that need a boost. They want to be here. they need to thrive, though, and the only way to do that is to collaborate with other surrounding communities, the peoples, bring them here, bring more widespread media, maybe on local cable, other than just small media platforms. The businesses, the only way they're going to survive is by a multifaceted effort, in doing so, marketing, what have you. And then when it comes to compromise, you have to agree to disagree sometimes with people. Your fellow council should be in one mind and one accord. And of course, there will be agree to disagree, but smart investment is important.
Just a quick follow-up on that. If you agree to disagree, nothing gets done. How do you get something done if you agree to disagree?
Well, somebody has to move forward on that. And it's an important decision, being that someone is taking the dive to do so in order to move the future of the city ahead, irregardless.
All right, great. Thank you very much. And I will try not to make that mistake again.
Thank
My
you.
apologies on that. So we're continuing with another city council, and then we'll have a mayor's question here. So, Mr. Welbom, this is for you to start with. Share your role of city council. What is the role of city council, and how do you plan on going to fulfill that role?
Well, the role of city council is to establish high-level policy objectives, including adopting the budget, adopting ordinances and resolutions, making advisory board appointments also, and appointing and overseeing the city manager. We're also responsible to ensure that Middletown meets all requirements established in legislation, such as the requirement to hold public meetings. Now, on certain, we also need to work with maintain roads and develop annual financial plans. Like I said, I will be leading and representing the community. I will listen to what our citizens demand and take a leadership role to ensure the fiscal stability of our city. I will be the #1 advocate for public safety on the city council, and that's going to be my #1 priority, but working as a team to achieve the goals to make Middletown the best city it can be will be my #1 objective, along with public safety.
All right, great. Mr. West.
Yes, thank you. Number one role, really, when I look at council, is represent the communities, every community. For many years, I can say this, living here since 2005, city council wasn't very transparent for years and not approachable. I think, that's changed in recent years. Obviously, we're going to, adopt policies, we're going to pass charters, things like that. We're going to follow the master plan. But really, the big thing is we want our citizens and our communities to feel represented, feel that they have a voice, feel that they can pick up the phone and call me, email me. They see me at the coffee shop, they can approach me and say, hey, Mr. West, and tell me what's going on. That's the #1 role. We don't live in Cincinnati. We don't live in New York City. We don't have hundreds of thousands of residents. We're right just under 50,000. And so the role of city council here is to be intimately involved in our communities.
Ms. Asbury, 1 minute.
And
What's the role your view of the role of city council, and how do you fulfill that?
my view of the role of city council is to be with the people. You have to have that equality, and you have to have that approachable personality. And when you're out in public, you want to hear what the citizens say because, well, to be honest with you, they own every loom of carpet that we're walking on. And so that's my priority. I want to hear what the citizens need, what they want. I want to be approachable, and I feel as though that I'm an equal. No one is above anyone, and that you should be able to, implement that in the community.
All right. Mr. Castle.
My view of what City Council's function should be is to develop and set a short-term and long-term vision for the city. We're the ones that, when we're up here, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of city do we want to be in? Or what kind of city do we want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? We are the long-term visionaries for the city. We chart a course for policy and initiatives to achieve those goals and aspirations. And finally, council is a collective voice for the city. There are 50,000 or around 50,000 people in the city. Those are 50,000 unique and individual stories, 50,000 unique and individual views of how this city functions. And we need to be listening to all 50,000 because ultimately they are the ones who elect us. They are our bosses, and they are the ones who have the real power.
All right. Mr. Ferrando?
Ferrando.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I can't pronounce the names very well, so my apologies.
It's all right. It's all right. Yeah, so our role as council, well, there's a charter. Aside from the charter, it starts there. In addition to that, our role is to listen to the people, set the vision, and establish policy for communities set forth by the charter. So, as Clayton indicated, there are 50,000 of you, and there's only going to be 5 of us. The community is going to have to be a part of that role. If we're going to move Middletown forward. They have to. I read recently about the charter and why, the ward system and why that changed, but I kind of liked it because you had leadership there, and they were the voice within those communities making the decisions. And so I kind of feel like there's this disconnect because as I'm on the campaign trail talking to people, everybody's curious as to what my agenda is. And I throw it back to them. And their response to me is like, I'm kind of like taken aback by why I'm asking them what their agenda is. It starts with the people. My role is to listen, engage, collaborate, and empower the people in this city.
Great. Thank you. This is going pretty fast, so I'm going to be hopping around with some questions here. I want to start with the mayoral candidates here. I think it would be Ms. Slamka first on this, because I think we did Mr. Mulligan first in the first mayoral question. But I wanted to go into the policy question. The unfortunate circumstances surrounding central connections has been a topic of controversy and conversation in the community. It's a very complex and startling story that really, the Journal News reporters, Rick McCrabb and Lauren Pack, had covered extensively and will continue to do so. But how do you keep from setting a precedent for the city to bail out another nonprofit from failing?
That's a great question. Thank you, Michael. So when I think of what happened with Central Connections, and like you said, how to keep the city from bailing out, if it's happening here, where else might it be happening in the city, is what I'd like to look at. Again, it's happened, we can't change that, but we can start with even just having a city representative on every board that's taking city funds. That would be a good start. Running audits and paying attention to that, having reports done so we can keep up with what's going on in the city. The levy that went towards Central Connections, that's a big deal for the people. And it hurts us personally when something like this can happen. We are human, we are fallible, but this is not the kind of thing that the city should allow. So that's what I would do. I would make sure the city is highly involved with everything that's involved with the city.
All right, Mr. Mulligan.
My answer to that is I don't think what City Council voted on last night was precedent-setting in the sense that the city would be on the hook to bail out nonprofits in the future that ran into financial difficulties. The Central Connections, Middletown Senior Center Incorporated, provides a unique service. It services to really a vulnerable population of older adults in Middletown, and we need to protect them. But also that center was a gathering place for so many organizations in the community. The Rotary clubs, the Kiwanis, other nonprofits met there, and it was, in a sense, kind of a living room for the community, and we want to see that available. As far as that organization moving forward, that building going forward, I think, talk about collaboration, we'll be looking to other nonprofits, the schools, places like Mount Pleasant, Otterbein, the YMCA, other organizations to come in and help operate that and provide programming, and that'll prevent it from being a financial burden in the future.
Thank you very much. I know others may want to weigh in on that, but I want to try to keep it a little bit, moving a little bit more. We're slowing down a little bit, but I have another juicy question for you here. Moving into some general policy questions, what do you feel is keeping Middletown from expanding and growing? What does Middletown need? Mr. West.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think what's kept Middletown from expanding and growing has been for years. Now, soon this is changing, but for years the lack of development off of 75. When we look at urban sprawl between Cincinnati and Dayton, it literally skipped us. They built a whole new exit called Austin Landing, Austin Boulevard. I mean, they built a whole new exit. We missed out on that. We missed out on the Racino. We missed out on so many things. If you think about it this way, if we had even one of those developments that had gone in 10, 12 years ago, imagine the tax revenue dollars this city would have had all of this time. Now, I will say, that's going to change here in the near future, but that's been the biggest thing that's held us back. Whether we look at repaving roads, or reinvesting in other infrastructure, public safety, we've always had to have a shoestring budget because we missed out on all of these key developments on the 75 corridor.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Asbury.
And to add on to that, I have to say that in order for a city to flourish and breathe and grow, you have to be able to adjust to change. And of course, part of that is bringing business. We have to put a juicy little stake out there for them and basically say, look, we have a grant person, I don't care if they're volunteer or they're hired, that can find grants to cut these small businesses a tax abatement of some sort, if not a titrated one. We've got to let these little businesses breathe. When they come here, they need to thrive because they are the very backbone of any community, especially a small city like ours. And that is smart investment. Therefore, your investment brings you money back.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Castle.
Yeah, I really have to agree with Steve on this because I've thought a lot about the I-75 corridor and what is there now and what is going to be going on there. I remember when I was a kid and I would visit my great-grandmother in Middletown, and Town Mall was a booming mall with a lot of business, and that drove people there. The I-75 corridor is our front door to the city. People are not going to want to come into the city, come into downtown, and go to our businesses downtown if they're not getting off the highway. I fully agree with what Steve said about we are losing out to Union Center, we are losing out to Liberty Center, Austin Landing, and it's time that we stop losing and we start winning, and we do that by continuing to develop everything from 75 to downtown.
Great. Mr. Ferrando.
Yes. So I'm going to go back to we have to have the willingness to look at larger regional models and partner with those leaders and not just be siloed internally with our administration and management. We have to be able to go to these other communities, cities, counties around us that have obviously gotten it right. I mean, I have 4 kids, and my wife and I most of the time are leaving Middletown to go to surrounding cities and communities to do anything entertainment. We have to be able to look at the larger regional model and be able to go there and ask their city managers and ask their management and have conversations and dialogues with their mayors and council members and figure out what are they doing and what are we not.
All right. Mr. Wellbom.
Yes, when it comes to missing what's holding us back is basically we're lacking a lot of vision and missing a lot of business opportunities, especially along I-75 near the Town Mall area. Now, when I was on the Southeast Dayton Priority Board, we had at least 2 meetings where we had studies showing how in the next 20, 30, 40 years, Dayton and Cincinnati would be like a megalopolis. So we're right smack dab in the middle of between Dayton and Cincinnati. So we need to take advantage and develop the town mall area. That's what's holding us back. We need to have some economic drive and some ambition to make Middletown #1 economic force. That's between Dayton and Cincinnati. Simple as that.
Great. Thank you very much. Now, I want to ask the council or our mayor candidates this. Barriers to progress. We just had a question from the council candidates answering one barrier to progress. What are some of the other barriers to progress? And specifically, I want you to see if you can address housing and homelessness, because that is an issue in many communities around Butler County, around the region, around the country.
I don't think I can do that in 1 minute.
We'll try, please.
I'm going to try to do it in 90 seconds. But I would take exception to the question about Middletown not growing. What's holding us back? Since the last census, 2010 to 2020, we grew by 2,400 households at a rate in the high 4%, which was higher than the city of Hamilton and higher than the growth rate of the state of Ohio. So I think we're growing both in population. The income tax records from 2010, just the baseline, $17 million collected on the 1.5% income tax. 10 years later is up to 20. This year, we're pacing at, 2022 at $25 million, just on the 1.5% income tax. So we went from 17 to 20 to 25. That means we are growing in the right direction. People are moving here. They're working. They're buying homes. Owner occupancies. So I guess take exception to the question that we're being held back from growth. We've been pretty judicious on development on the East End. And I'm glad that years ago we didn't say, okay, we're going to do a gas station and a fast food restaurant at the Bender Tract. Instead, we waited. Now we have a $300 million development that's going to be residential, hotels, event center on the Bender Tract. Part of that's owned by the city. Warren County's on board, is 60% rented at this point. So we have a lot to look forward to on the highway. So I think maybe our own self-perception is holding us back, but we've got bright things ahead.
All right, I'll give you about the same amount of time, Ms. Slamka. Same question. What are some of the barriers to progress? And I would like to see if you can answer some of the homeless issues and housing, but let me get Ms. Slamka first.
Thank you. Well, the first thing I think of when Mr. West and everyone here has pretty much touched on the I-75 corridor, when we talk about missing out, sometimes I wonder if that has to do also with our perception, the way we are perceived as a city. Those of us who live in Middletown, we know why we love it. We know about how this community has such a heart and drive. But to people in the region around us, all they hear, see, and repeat are negatives. We have not done a good job of marketing ourselves. So, of course, I think about that. There is a way to do that, but I would like to also answer your question about homelessness and housing as barriers. It's all connected. Everything's connected. We are lacking in some of the jobs that could put our workforce to work, our manufacturing workforce to work. I have some ideas about that. And homelessness is like a spectrum. We have people who are at the lower end, actively addicted, struggling, who are chronically homeless. They need certain kind of help. We have people on the other end who are just a paycheck away from being there as well. So there are ways we can use some of grants, there are so many different funds and things like that, utilizing regional Butler County programs as well to help people to continue to stay in the homes that they are already in and not allow that kind of problem to happen. But there's so much to say about this issue. Yeah.
Great. If you can, maybe 10 or 15 seconds of how do you address homelessness? I know that's a big question in 10 or 15 seconds.
Well, the city's been, at the forefront, getting Hope House moved from the Central Business District to Grove Street, expanded that so that there are residential Section 8 vouchers there for people coming off addiction issues can stay, provide some more capacity in that way. As far as the new initiatives, I applaud the current city manager who said, these encampments can't happen on city property. You know, this is not fair to those individuals. We have affordable housing here. We have treatment programs. It doesn't make sense for you to live on the street.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to do a couple one rapid fire questions before we start closing arguments because we're almost done. Ms. Asbury, we're going to start with you. Why do you want to be elected? 10 seconds.
Why do I want to be elected? Well, I can tell you why I want to be elected. I have long seen such potential in the city of Middletown. I love its people. I think that it's highly important as a leader, and I'm your write-in candidate, to be able to empower the people of Middletown. That is what I want to do.
Great. Mr. Castle, why do you want to be elected?
I moved here a few years ago when I married my beautiful wife, Heather, and I immediately fell in love with the city. I have family roots here. As a kid, we visited here. My great-grandparents lived here until my great-grandmother passed away in 2008. But when I moved back here, I saw a lot of the things that I enjoyed as a kid in disrepair. The Manchester Inn, the Town Mall. And I felt like I had a calling to do something about that. And I said in my opening statement, and I'll say it again in my closing statement, this is really a calling. I feel like I can use my skills to better Middletown.
All right. Real quick, try to take a little bit less time, Mr. Ferrando, because we're going to get closing statements here soon. Why do you want to be elected?
I want to be elected as Middletown's next council member. As Joe put it, we've done a lot. We've accomplished a lot. We could do more.
Mr. Mulligan, why do you want to be mayor?
I have the experience that is, would provide steady leadership. I have the knowledge, the relationships at the state, the local, the county level. We're in a great place. The fiscal responsibility of the past provides us with the flexibility moving forward to reinvest in our city.
Ms. Slamka, why do you want to be mayor?
Thank you. I want to give back to the quality of life, the recreation for our residents here in the city. I want to streamline processes for businesses, create a flow there that's efficient and welcoming to not only new business, but also established businesses here and create those relationships and keep them.
Mr. Welbom, why do you want to be elected?
Yeah, I want to be elected because I want to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Middletown is a great city, has a great history, and I want to be a part of that and be a driving force to make us number one.
All right, Mr. West, why do you want to be elected? Did you get your closing statements?
2007, Forbes called Middletown the worst place to live in America. And I think I speak for everybody here in the room, everybody that's watching. I personally took offense to that. And ever since then, we've changed this city, and we are on the brink of doing great things. We've got some of the largest developments going in the state of Ohio in the next couple of years. And we also have a lot of potential downtown. We've got some new investors here in town that we can collaborate with.
Thank you very much. And you can start with closing statements, and we'll do reverse off.
All right. Once again, thanks everybody for your time and your consideration. Mr. Pierce, Mr. Pittman, the chamber, everybody that's here. It's a pretty big crowd tonight. See many friendly faces. I'd like to thank all the other candidates. This isn't easy to do. But in closing, I'd like to say, tonight we've discussed a lot of hot topics. A lot of things are moving and shaking here in the city. Aquatic Center, Sunny Hill. We've got quite a bit going on with the unfortunate events at the Senior Center. Obviously, East End, Town Mall is going to be a huge thing. We're going to get it done. We're going to make some changes here in the next 4 years. Public safety, we've got to reinvest. Public safety also includes waterworks. Police, firefighters. We are a few $1 million short on the new fire stations. I think we've got some creative ways to make that up. So, in closing, I see I'm out of time. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Welbom. I'm sitting down because my back is hurting. So, Mr. Welbom, 1 minute.
Yes, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Pierce, Mr. Pittman, and my fellow candidates, and all those who attended our candidates forum tonight. Thank you. I'm the most qualified candidate for City Council here tonight with my experience on the Southeast Dane Priority Board and being president of my old neighborhood association which gives me the background to lead Middletown to a rebirth and renaissance. As I stated before, public safety will be my top priority as a member of City Council. We need neighborhoods that are safe and crime-free for our children and our families. My time in the United States Army has developed my teamwork skills, and I will use those skills on City Council. Finally, my analytical skills as an intelligence analyst will allow me to find ways to bring more economic development to Middletown. I humbly and respectfully ask for your vote on Election Day. You can check out my website at wallbombformiddletown.com. Thank you. Have a great night.
All right, Ms. Slamka, 1 minute.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone here tonight again, the Chamber, those watching. I'm just grateful for this opportunity to speak with all of you, to share more about my passion for the city and my desire to serve the people. I agree. I would love to see a fully funded, a fully staffed, highly trained police force for safety. That would be something I would really be excited about. Middletown has a lot going for it. From our workforce, the riverfront possibilities, our growing and diverse population, placement between the two major highway corridors and the two international airports, and our clean water. It's just a matter of bringing everything together and moving our vision forward in a positive direction. I'm here to build that strong foundation and lead Middletown to a brighter, more positive future. I love this city, always have, and am devoted to working tirelessly for all of you. With my business experience, leadership roles in the community, and public service record, I hope you will vote Elizabeth Slamka for mayor. Thank you. Good night.
All right, Mr. Mulligan, 1 minute.
I'll add my thanks to the Chamber of Commerce and all involved in putting on tonight's candidate forum. I'm Joe Mulligan, and I sit before you, humbled and grateful for the opportunity to have served 2 terms on council. We worked through some very challenging times and came through it a stronger and better city. I was part of a team that decided we were comprehensively and meaningfully going to address road repaving, and we did it with the support of voters. I was part of the team that created the funding stream for the new fire stations that's going to better serve our first responders and provide better protection to our citizens. I was part of a team that, from the outside, attracted $1 billion of commercial investment since 2011. We've got another $300 million coming in the next couple years at Renaissance Point. These are great times for Middletown. We have a strong balance sheet now because we've been fiscally conservative in the past, and it's time that we reinvest in our people. We're going to add to our staff. Our public safety forces are going to be larger. They're going to be well equipped.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ferrando.
Thank you again for this opportunity. And as your next City Council elected member, I will be invested in championing the right efforts, policies, and agenda towards moving Middletown forward. To do this efficiently and effectively, we must do it collectively. It's going to take all of us, each of us, doing our part. There is going to be 5 of us sitting up here elected in November. There's 50,000 of you. Let's get together and move Middletown forward.
All right, Mr. Castle.
I first want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event and Mr. Pittman for moderating this event and for everyone for coming out. My platform is simple: more resources for police and fire, bringing an aquatic center to Middletown for our families to create lasting memories, continued economic development at the I-75 corridor, downtown, and across the city, increased resources for community events, enhancing the city's partnership with Middletown City Schools, and listening to all residents, no matter what part of the city they live in. I want to see a thriving, vibrant Middletown. No more time for talk. It's time for action. Earlier tonight, I said running for office is my calling. It's my God-given calling. Recently, I came across a scripture that I've pondered and prayed about. It's Galatians 6:9. It reads, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." We will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Elect Clayton Castle to Middletown City Council, and we will reap that harvest once again.
Thank you very much. Ms. Asbury, final word.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for being here this evening and spending your time, which is so valuable. I want to ensure you that for a very long time, I've had this calling in my heart. It goes back a long, long time. And I want to assure you, as your city council member that you're in good hands. You're in a leader's hands. I'm a businesswoman, and I feel strongly that I can not only lead this community in the right direction, but work with others to do the same. And of course, untangle the discord that is here, and we will invest further. And I thank you so much and hope that you will elect me November 7th.
All right, thank you very much, and that concludes our forum. I do want to thank the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. Thank you for the audience to listen and be an interested member of the society, because without you guys, this wouldn't happen. Also, to register to vote, you have until October 10th. Early voting starts October 11th and runs through November 5th, and Election Day is November 7th. Thank you very much, and you can register to vote now if you haven't done so. VoteOhio.gov.
So good evening, everybody. My name is Rick Pierce. I'm president of the chamber that serves Middletown, Monroe, and Trenton. We do candidate forums for our service area whenever there are more people running for office than seats available. This is for Middletown City School Board. So what I'd like to ask you to do is please turn off your phone or put it on vibrate for the next hour. I'd like to thank the candidates for running for public office. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, so congratulations to you and making sure your paperwork's right to even get to this point in time. because I know that's a challenge. And with that, I'll introduce Michael Pittman, your moderator, and he will be asking questions for the next hour.
Again, my name is Michael Pittman. I am a staff writer and columnist at the Journal News. And I wanted to thank Rick for giving me my one-day pass from Middletown because I cover Hamilton. So thank you very much for that. I know as soon as I leave, the door will be locked behind me. Just a couple rules, some ground rules here. We will be going in alphabetical order. I know we have to go the second letter for two of our candidates here since they start with S. And then at the end, the closing statements will go reverse alphabetical. You'll have 2 minutes for opening statements. Closing statements will be 1 minute, and questions will be 1 minute. Although we have three candidates here, Mr. Coakley and Ms. Snow were not able to be here due to a scheduling conflict, but we have Anita Schubert, Verlina Stewart, and Chris Urso, and I should be applauded because I said Verlina's name right. And then also, I want to make sure that we know that election is the election is coming up on November 7th, but you still have time to register to vote. You have time until October 10th is the last day for voter registration. After this forum, you can get on your phone, go to voteohio.gov, and register to vote. You can do it online. You can also check your voter registration to make sure it's updated and all that. October 11th is the first day of early voting. You can register. You can also go to voteohio.gov to get your vote by mail ballot if you want to vote by mail. Early voting goes from October 11th to November 5th. That's when you go to the Board of Elections to vote in person in the office there or vote by mail. November 7th is Election Day. The polls are open from 6:30 to 7:30, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And with that, we will start with our opening statements. Ms. Scheibert.
Scheibert, yes.
Scheibert.
Thank you very much.
Screwed up already.
Well, no, you're not the first. You're not the first. However, if I had my maiden name here, you really would have been baffled.
Well, you have
I
2 minutes to open here.
I moved from the beginning of the alphabet to the end of the alphabet, so this is funny being first. I haven't been first for 50 years. So, my name is Anita Scheibert, and I was born in Middletown and grew up here, lived here all but 2 years of my life when I was off and going to be a grown-up and move away. But I came back because I met a man from Middletown and got married and came back. And we have been married. Next month will be 48 years. So that's one of my biggest achievements in life. The other are my 3 daughters who are grown now that I'm very proud of. And I finally have a grandchild after many, many, many years of waiting. I must be the oldest first-time grandma on record. So I'm enjoying that. I was raised in Middletown by my mom and dad. My dad was a steel worker at AK, and I mean he was in the labor field. He was the guy that lined the ladles with the bricks before they poured the molten steel into them. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. It was kind of like a 1950s house, except we were not Leave It to Beaver. Dad worked shift work, mom stayed home, so that's how I grew up. I loved school. I think I always wanted to be a teacher. I put myself through college, thank goodness for Middletown campus, which had opened the year before I was ready to go to college. My parents could not put me through college, and scholarships back then were not all that plentiful. So I know the value of education. I did it for myself. I've worked in both non-public and public schools for over 50 years. I have a degree in elementary school education. I'm certified as a teacher K through 8, and as my side, my master's degree is in elementary school counseling. I'm qualified as a counselor for all grades, and my specialty is elementary education. After I retired from teaching full-time, I decided there was an opening on the school board in Middletown, and I thought, I need a stretch. I need to try this. And so I ran and was elected. And I feel very strongly about the education in Middletown. Looking in from the outside at that time, things were kind of stuck. teacher morale seemed to be very low. And I know this from comments from teachers who were in this area.
I'm going to have to cut you off there because we're in the red.
Okay.
But we only have a few people here, so we'll be flexible
Sure,
on the time.
sure.
Ms. Stewart,
Hi.
you got to press the button there.
Now you're on.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, thank you. Again, I am Verlina Stewart. I have been in Middletown for 54 years, came when I was 10 years old, so I'm aging myself a little bit. But I'm married. Want to say hello to my best friend, my husband, who's here tonight, my sister, Jackie Phillips Carter, who's here supporting me. Summarize who I am. Came to Middletown, started working at the city of Middletown when I was 16 years old, retired from the city of Middletown in 2007, worked a couple of years in my church. Now I'm working full-time at the Community Building Institute that's housed in the Robert Sunny Hill Community Center. Product of the public school system, graduated from Middletown High School. While I was working, I took 7 years to get an associate's degree. 7 years. Why? Because I wanted to graduate cum laude. I wanted A's. I wanted to ace it. Why was it important for me to do that? Because when I was in high school, I was told that I was not college material and don't think about going to college. It hurt my feelings. It crushed me. I thought I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. Jackie Phillips Carter, my sister, graduated with soaring scores through high school. Went on to college, has a master's degree, and is doing well. What it told me is school works for some people. It may be a challenge for others, but everybody has the ability to succeed. That's what drew me to the school board. That's why I applied to fill the unexpired seat. Have never, ever considered public office or that I would be in this position, but I am very hopeful that I'll be elected in November, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Ursa, 2 minutes.
Yeah, first off, thank you.
I think you make sure you press the button.
Is it not on?
Oh, there it goes.
No, I wasn't close enough. First off, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Rick. I'm Chris Urso. I've had the honor of serving on the Board of Education for the past few years with my friends and colleagues, Ms. Scheiber and Ms. Stewart for the last few years. And I'm an educator. I grew up in a family of educators. My mom taught 35 years at Creekview Elementary School, my dad at Monroe High School, and before that, Taft and Hamilton City Schools. And I went to college and tried to resist the family business. I tried to think of other fields, but I couldn't. This was what we were made to do. My sister's in the field of education. My brother, I have aunts, uncles, cousins, and my wife. I married an educator who was a student in my mom's kindergarten class. But why it is in our family business is that in seeing my parents and the connection that they're able to build with people, young people, drew me to the field. It keeps you young, it keeps you engaged, and I've enjoyed every moment. And I've enjoyed every moment of the opportunity to serve on the Board of Education. There have been trying moments over the last few years, but the reward is that we're able to do work that is meaningful for the most important group, most important people within our community, our youth. And so with that in mind, I have a background in education. I've taught in Cincinnati Public Schools. I've taught at Miami. I currently am a coach there, academic coach, and I get to work with our juniors and seniors who choose to go to Miami a little bit earlier than some other students choose to go there. But again, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, and I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you very much. I'm just going to be skipping around some of our questions because we have, again, two of our candidates who were not able to make it because of conflicts. But we've heard the idiom that it takes a village to raise a child. So let's talk about that a little bit about that village here. Obviously, the parents of the district's students are one set of stakeholders. But who else do you see as a stakeholder in the community, in the district, and why? And including parents, what are the best ways to engage the district stakeholders? Ms. Stewart, we'll start with you first.
A village to raise a child. Let's do it. I think everybody is a stakeholder. I think everybody adds value to the discussion. The school district is doing an amazing job communicating with the public. I've had conversations with the superintendent about this. I cannot think of any other avenues that the school can use to reach parents at this time, and we're always looking, but they're doing a great job. I think it's incumbent on the students. We don't want to absolve them at all, to talk to each other and let them know what's going on and how they can be supported, the pathways that are available, the resources that are available in the school and outside of the school. I think it is incumbent on our residents to share information, to ask questions, most importantly, about how can my kid get some extra resources? Where do I go to get the support that I need? I think it is incumbent on us as business leaders and educators to speak consistently with our constituents and with the residents and share information. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Urso.
Yeah, I think anybody who pays property tax in Middletown is absolutely a stakeholder. I mean, they're investing in their community by investing in our schools. Absolutely, over the last few years, our Passport to Tomorrow program incorporates our business community more actively, making sure that our graduates are leaning into a world prepared to take jobs and have the skill sets that they need. Absolutely, our parents who are trusting our school district to keep their kids safe and prepare them appropriately for a world that's changing rapidly. Our faith community, I mean, over the past few years, we've leaned on them to help communicate because they're connected with families just like we're connected with families. Our children, listening to them, understanding what worries they have, what things they're excited about, so we can connect their interests to what we're trying to teach. There's, like, you talk about a village, of course there are different pieces within that, each of which can make or break that organization. In terms of communication and being able to connect with them, I mean, today, I mean, you have social media, you have a level of transparency, hopefully, that folks know they can connect with us. And I take it seriously. If somebody emails me, I try to email back quickly so they know that they connect with us and that we are a conduit between the schools and the community.
Ms. Scheibert.
Well, I agree with everything they said. I think everyone who lives in this city is a stakeholder. People who own businesses in this city or even work here are stakeholders in what our children become. And so in our schools, I am amazed at the number of people that are coming into our schools. We have a program that I don't know, everybody knows about Passport to Tomorrow. That's one avenue. We also have the Adopt a Class. Adopt a Class, people that are coming in from businesses. It's kind of an organization that's been centered in Middletown, but was invited in here, and we're reaping the benefits of that. So we've got outside people who are coming in and looking around and bringing us ideas too. So it does take a village. It takes all levels of workers to help these children.
Now, just more of a randomly here, but is there are there specific ways that you can engage? I mean, you brought up a couple of ways to engage of bringing people into the classroom to do, but are there specific things that you'd like to see done in the next couple of years on council, or I'm sorry, on school board, to actively engage people, to bring them in, to go out in the community?
And again, a pandemic happened during our last term, and so prior to that, MIDI-XL, we had large events to where we opened up our buildings, had busloads of folks walk through our hallways, understand what we're teaching, engage with our curriculum. Of course, we would like to reinvest in that opportunity because people drive by schools and you have assumptions on what's going on in those schools based upon a variety of different sources. Until you go in, you meet the people, you get to feel the spaces, understand what your investment is paying for, you don't really have a tangible, I guess, evidence to what's going on.
Ms. Stewart, Ms. Scheibert, do you want to weigh in on that?
I think I would just echo what Chris just said. It's my goal and my hope, if I'm reelected, never been elected, if I'm elected, is to have conversations with people and encourage them to come to the schools and have conversations while things are great. Because one of the worst things we do is wait until our child is in crisis. And so we're coming to the school and having that first impression under stress. And nothing's more precious than our babies, right? So come while things are great, build relationships, understand who you're talking to and who you can talk to and what's available. So if unfortunately your child ever is in crisis, you can connect to the school in a better, more positive way.
And I've noticed that in Middletown schools, there have been times where superintendents have had coffees and invited people in, and those are not always well intended. I think people are very nervous about talking or venting or whatever. But if you have an art show, you have an open house, you're there doing something with the children, looking around and seeing what's new, that brings the parents in. Anything that involves the kids. I forget what the cafeteria thing they used to do with.
Sodexo would have a
that
recipe.
the recipe contest. Whoa, was that well attended? They make their little foods, and then you get to try those after, and the kids talk. Those kind of things where the kids are involved, the community comes in droves.
Recipe, that sounds like my type of activity to
You
participate
love it. You get
in.
to taste them too.
Well, moving on here, you mentioned the passports to tomorrow. Mr. Urso, we're going to start with you on this one, but the district's new strategic plan that was developed in 21, which you guys know because you've all mentioned it, it was rolled out last year between the local businesses, the administration, and the chamber. How has it been? How has that first year been, and what type of feedback did you get?
And speaking to it, I know each week we get updates, each month we get updates on the number of businesses that are now a part of that passport to tomorrow. And so I think the reception has been extremely positive. The proof will be down the road when our graduates are guaranteed interviews, when our graduates are moving into the workforce and having opportunities that otherwise they wouldn't have if this piece of policy wasn't implemented. It's going to be longitudinal. I think the start is good, but I think it'll be where it would be 3 to 5 years down the road that will truly show when the chamber is excited that they have employees for the employers that are always looking, then we'll know that our passport to tomorrow is fully vetted and implemented in ways with fidelity.
Great. Ms. Schreiber?
Yes. On the other end of that, too, I always check with Mrs. Hauser about the participants, because this is really an elective thing. The kids are encouraged to go, but the participation is more and more. And it was over 100 children alone who went to the library for their program the last time, whatever they had set up for them. And so I think that it's going well. It's going to be expanded this year. It's going to be setting the groundwork for grades 6 through 8. It's only been K through 5 until now, just to get things organized well. But 6 through 8 is coming, and then, on to the high school. So I think it's moving along wonderfully, and I do think the children are enjoying. We see pictures; they look like they're happy.
Ms. Stewart?
I agree. I am super excited about Passport to tomorrow. As Chris said, the outcomes are yet to come, but the kids are excited about it. They are having experiences that some of them would otherwise never get to have. Real life experiences, real work, and they are game changers, and they are shaping what some of our kids are thinking about in terms of their pathways. So I think there is a very promising trajectory through Passport to tomorrow.
Great. I want to get a little bit into the finances here, and we'll start with you, Ms. Scheibert. Budgets are a challenge, especially your budget. It's $84 million for the general fund, I think 110 in all funds budget. How do you approach, what's your approach in overseeing this budget? And I mean, it's very large and expansive. So how do you dig into that?
When I got on school board, the amount of money involved in this is astronomical in my mind, and so it is a big, huge responsibility. I think we look at how many children will this affect. Our whole focus is on what's this going to do for the children, and the more directly it impacts them, the more important it becomes, as far as I'm concerned.
Ms. Stewart?
So I've been in this seat 11 months. I looked at that budget and thought, oh my goodness, there's more zeros than I can count. So I have approached it by looking at little bites at a time. So there are, there's a capital budget, there's a general budget, there's a transportation budget. So I've been looking at little components at a time, trying to understand the budgets as much as I can and making it relative to, okay, how does that impact the child and what does that mean in terms of per student? So my approach is a little bit at a time, trying to understand the budget as well as I can and relating it back to how does that impact an individual student.
Just a quick follow-up on that. How are you adapting to that? I mean, you said to take it like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. How has that strategy worked for you to fully understanding the budget, and what input have you given?
Yeah, can't say I fully understand the budget. I rely heavily on our treasurer, who is a guru with the budget. So I ask questions, I read, I try to understand it, and I yield to the experts for the answers that I need.
Great. Mr. Urso?
Yeah, I'm careful in terms of per pupil expenditures. I want to know the money is going directly to student experiences as best that we can. I know it's difficult because there's a lot of moving parts. Also, in any contract that comes before us, especially ones that do have multiple zeros, is to understand the origins, the need, what kind of negotiations took place to secure said contract. And it's also mindful, too, that in our tenure as board members, we haven't gone to taxpayers. We haven't asked for new monies. We understand that there's a heavy tax burden on people and that the schools are a big piece of that, the taxes that people pay in Middletown. And so we want to be strong fiscal stewards. We want to provide the best opportunities possible within our budget. And so within that, we do have strong leaders within our district, Mr. Bertram and Ms. Hauser, that are careful in those areas, but it's our responsibility to monitor those expenditures, to ask questions about them, to make sure that we are staying within our means.
Great. And to follow up on the financials here, what's the biggest financial challenge the school district is facing? Ms. Stewart?
The biggest financial challenge, I would say some of the ed choice options and the dollars that are moving from Middletown City Public School into other areas. It is not complementary to public schools in our position. So I think that's the biggest challenge.
All right, Mr. Urso?
I would agree. The state funding model is kind of fluid, and not kind of, it is fluid. We wait and wait and wait, and then we get information and we have to adjust to it. But the backpack bill, other policies that have been discussed, implemented, do have a bearing on public education and our bottom line.
Ms. Scheibert?
I agree with that, both of their comments, and also I think that we've had to be very scrupulous in our funding that came through ESSER funds to schools, and now the funding is coming to an end, and we have to be very careful about how we're going to function without that. We tried to not use those monies for regularly scheduled things, and so now we have to be very judicious in how we do without those things. But again, our treasurer does every meeting break down the budget into as specifically as he can into categories. So I think that helps us all keep track of just about everything he has. It helps me tremendously.
I wanted a question that we didn't have on this list, but it came out recently with the state report cards, and I know that's a snapshot in time, but digging into the state report cards, what can you glean from that to see where Middletown School District needs to improve? Where are you improving at that may not really be reflective on the surface of the school report card? Ms. Scheibert?
Well, it is a quandary, and it breaks my heart that we still got the number that we got. However, I think behind the scenes, We have been doing things in the past 8 years. I think since Mr. Stiles came in, there was a whole new approach to this. Mrs. Hauser has been a part of that. That's why we're so happy that she's carrying on. Teachers, you know, the field of math was low. Teachers have been trained in, we've been using the New York math program for a long time, but come to find out the teachers were never really trained in that program. So there's been extensive training. There were even some grants given to do some extra training in that area. The MAP testing that we use, that's a benchmark testing done 3 times a year. There's tons of data, but I'm not sure it had been looked at carefully, which we're looking at now.
And I skipped Mr. Urso. He should have went first, so I'm going to let you go second.
And you're right, it's a glimpse in regards to the state report card. And it measures growth, but then also achievement. And where our teachers do really well is growing students. It looks at a start point and a finish point, and it sees how much a student grows. Where I think our district lacks is that our students sometimes enter school without fundamental skills. And so the start point is different for our students at times when compared to others. It's not an excuse, we need to do better. It's acknowledging, and that's where our investment in preschool and early education is rooted, is that our students enter school. It's always been kind of crazy to me that you can begin something and be behind. And our students begin school, and on paper it seems like they're behind. And so when we compare against other districts at times, it fails to acknowledge fully some of those equations. And so our focus is making sure that we can do everything possible to teach our young people to read and to make sure, and like you had indicated, our teachers are skilled in Engage New York, in the programs that they need to instill in their classrooms.
Ms. Stewart?
So this is my high horse, and Ann just put that clock down now. So I looked at the report card, and you're right, it's a glimpse, but the one thing that got my attention is when I looked at the elementary schools. And you know, we moved from a grade rating to a star rating, and I'm looking at 7 elementary schools. 5 out of the 7, I believe, got a 1-star rating. 1 got a 2-star, 1 got a 3-star. Progress was great, making progress. Kids aren't going to kindergarten ready. We have to focus on getting our kids prepared for kindergarten. Preschools are essential. Focusing on birth to 5 is essential. If we do not, we are not going to be able to advance the way we like in subsequent grades. It just is not going to happen. The community has to wrap its arms around preschool and early learning. Critical, critical, critical.
A quick follow-up. I mean, the COVID pandemic did have a part in it where you had some inconsistent learning models. You had the remote and virtual learning. Mr. Urso, how do you combat that? How do you combat that education loss or the learning loss from COVID, the COVID years?
It takes time, and I think the ESSER dollars have allowed us to instill some programs in our district that otherwise we wouldn't have to make up those gains. On the other end of the spectrum, we talk about early childhood a lot. At the high school level, our district is redesigning our high school in regards to from the bell schedule to the curriculum to the fine details of how that high school runs, to acknowledge that our high school has to evolve. And so in that data, to go to your point again, on what are we doing, we're looking at that data. We're being careful in terms of what decisions we make and how we spend our money to hopefully yield outcomes that in the future will be more stars. But I'm always worried about focusing just on a test because there's so many more elements to what goes on in a school. And I do appreciate, my kids go to Middletown City Schools. I trust our staff fully that Evan and Claire will not be held back, that they're gonna have glowing opportunities. And your daughter, who traveled through Middletown City Schools, is a wonderful, productive citizen within the world. And so I hate to defend a test that doesn't always capture what students, real people, are actually doing.
Ms. Stewart, we'll let you go next. How do you combat the learning loss that had happened over the last couple of years during the pandemic?
I think the school district is doing a great job. I think that's what people don't see. People talk about the learning loss. We have lessened that gap. We have made a difference. There are so many programs and opportunities within the school system during the day and out of school to address that learning loss, and I think we're doing it. So we need to look at those numbers. And Ms. Hauser is available and is always ready to answer her phone for anyone who has questions in terms of the exact numbers and data so that we can look at it. But we are addressing it, and we're doing a good job.
Ms. Schreiber?
I was thinking, as a teacher who worked through that a little bit, and that, boy, you talk about foreign to me, it helped us pivot almost faster than we would have ever thought. Teachers to adapt to this way of learning and children to adapt this way of learning, so that we come back, I think we're much more adept at working with all of the computer-based training that's available on books in a way to individualize programs for different children to get them where they need to be. So I think it was kind of a hard way to do it and too fast for my taste, but it did help us pivot to, I think, another level, which has been good for some kids, not all kids, but very good for some kids.
Now, shifting gears a little bit here, more on the policy side of things here. I mean, you're each one voice of a 5-member board. We're electing 3 members this election cycle. So Middletown's a very large organization, hundreds of employees, roughly 6,100 kids. So talk about your experience in setting policy, overseeing a large organization. I lost my track, so Ms. Stewart, we'll start with you.
So I think for me, the beauty in being on the school board is our major responsibility is hiring the superintendent and the treasurer. We do that because we have an opportunity to go out and get what we consider to be the best person for the job and that has expertise in the field. And then we rely on them to have conversations with their leadership and build a team that can then do the work of the district. And we trust them to do their jobs, and they come back and report regularly and share the curriculum, their learning, their challenges, profiles, students, and I think that's how we oversee an organization of that size, and rely on them hiring the staff and working with a team that's competent and reliable and is going to fulfill the needs of the.
Can you talk a little bit about your personal experience heading, I mean, that's outside of the school district, that has basically set you up to be a member of school board?
My outside experiences that set me up to be a member of the school board. Well, again, I went through, I'm a product of the public school system. I worked for the city of Middletown for 32 years. I'm very well versed in the community, the opportunities, the challenges. I currently oversee the Robert Sonny Hill Community Center, and we offer an out-of-school program where we have a $2 million budget, where we serve in all 7 elementary schools, the 6th grade center, the middle school, and the high school.
Yeah.
I have been involved and oversaw the community center since 1976 in some shape, form, or fashion. And the community center is a safe haven, an academic center, an enrichment center for children and their families. So I feel like I'm very well versed in the community when it comes to kids and school and learning.
Mr. Urso, same question here. Talk about your experience in setting policies and overseeing it, and also, if you can, go into a little bit about your non-school, non-education experience that helps you be a school board member.
I know within our district we have policy committees. I think Ms. Scheibert, you sit upon that. Ms. Mulligan sits upon it too, of which we, as board members, have voices at the table as we revise policy, and we look at those readily because they change. New technologies change that force us to look at cell phone use, or tobacco use was one that we recently did in one of our meetings. And so one of our major responsibilities is policy, is making sure our policies are relevant, fair, thoughtful, and fully encompassing what they're trying to accomplish. And as a board, we take that extremely serious. And like Ms. Stewart had indicated, we try our very darndest to make sure our staff at the very top, who we have direct oversight over, our treasurer and our superintendent, are diligent in that work, that policy committee meets, and it meets frequently to make sure that we're not missing something that's going to come back and hurt our district. In regards to experiences, I've been trained as an analytical thinker. I'm a researcher by trade. I like to ask questions. I like to think I'm a pretty good listener because I think this role requires both. I think you have to be able to receive information, process that, and then be logical in regards to how you respond to that. And over the last 4 years, we've been taxed in that area. We've had divisive issues that come in front of us and it should be a space where people can be passionate about, because we're working with the most delicate group of people in the world, the young folks. And so families are going to come in, parents are going to come in, and I think we have to set a temperament. We have to lead with a way that hopefully is responsive and honest and fair, that people can trust us.
Great. Ms. Scheibert?
Same question.
Same question.
What was the first part? I know my outside experiences. I could go to that one first.
Yeah, but also talk about your experience about setting policy.
Oh, the policies.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I am on the policy committee. And we work with our treasurer and our superintendent and some of the administrative team, and we go over policies as they come out, and they're constantly being looked at. The Ohio School Board Association takes great care in finding out legally which policies are in line with the latest legal updates. And so we look at those policies and we see how they fit into our school, what we need out of them. So we're kind of covered both ways. And we are careful with those things. I know there was one, not only the smoking thing, but there was some wording in one about safety zones, and we had to check and make sure what were the safety zones considered in our Middletown school system. So we do look at that, and they are, I don't know how often they come out for revision, but ours are just recently. Mrs. Mulligan and I have been on the team that have just recently caught up with everything we have, and so now we're working on anything new that comes up. My second thing about
What's outside experiences?
Oh, outside experiences? Well, I worked in retail a lot. I learned how to work with people a lot. And being a mother has been a tremendous education for me. I'm in the red zone.
That's all right. They were in the red zone, too.
Oh, okay. And I've always had a great interest. I think that's why I went into school counseling. I have a great interest in being a mediator, being a careful listener, trying to find common points for people, commonality among people. So those are my experiences.
Now, this being a chamber-sponsored forum, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the school's relationship with the business community. So what can the Middletown business community do to help enhance the student achievement and building their skill set? And again, I'm lost, so I think Mr. Urso, I think we'll go with you first.
I think, hopefully not to be redundant, but the things that we're doing within our Passport to Tomorrow is in partnership with our chamber. Within our strategic plan, we incorporated the voice of the chamber as we developed that. As we look at Adopt a Class, what Ms. Scheibert brought up a few minutes ago, we're inviting business community leaders into our buildings, and so they can engage, get to know, and understand our students better to succeed. And I know school is about developing future workers, but we're also, within our strategic plan, trying to create problem solvers, critical thinkers, strong communicators, young people that can advocate for themselves, all skills that hopefully our business community can benefit from.
Ms. Scheibert?
I agree that I think that Passport to Tomorrow shows a good deal of what working with the businesses, but I also think, especially at the high school level, when kids are going out and getting part-time jobs or doing service work, it's a chance for us to help those kids know the things they need to say, the things they need to do, to encourage the responsibility of being on time, and all those kind of things that you would do with a child who is going out into the business world. I too am so excited about the Passport to Tomorrow program. The credentials that the children are working toward are all those skills that we want our children to have as a parent, and they come directly to us from the chamber and the work with other business leaders. Those are the things that people are looking for, and those are the things we're trying to develop.
Great. Ms. Stewart.
I think all I can add to that is I don't think anything would make Ms. Hauser happier than a business to call her and say, hey, can we come to the district? So I think sometimes we wait for an invitation. You know, they haven't asked me yet, ABC Business, to participate in the schools. Pick up the phone and volunteer.
Great. And is that something that you can proactively do, not necessarily wait for the businesses to start, but
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's happening.
All right. Great.
But if anybody out there is listening and feels they've been left out, please call.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So talk about just I know that there's a definition of what a school member is, what you do, but what makes an effective school member? Why, I guess, what skills do you possess that make you effective? I mean, you can go into the analytical part of things, the definition of what a school member is, but what personally makes you effective? Ms. Stewart, I think we'll start with you.
I knew you were going to come to me first. Let's look at him first.
Well, you're right ahead.
Him first. I think what makes me a good school board member is my heart for the community. I genuinely care about the Middletown community. I genuinely believe the stupid cliche, our kids are our tomorrow. I genuinely believe that. So I want to work together with like-minded people at the table to solve problems and to help the kids in their best interests. It's a genuine concern. I'm a busy person. It takes a lot of time. But if I had to give my time to a cause, it would be for a better Middletown and a better pathway for our students.
Ms. Shivert, we'll go with you next.
Okay. I think you have to be an excellent listener. You have to be a person who likes to dig in and look around for information, because sometimes the things that come up we need to know more about. I think we have to be very cooperative with one another. It's not always, your way may not go 100%, and you may have to bend a little, and we find that often because we're 5 people who are like-minded in many ways, but also we have our own opinions and we look at things through different perspectives. So listening, cooperating, being respectful to one another, and I have to say, and when you were talking to Mrs. Stewart and she was talking about herself and what she brings as a school board member, I have to say that the minute I heard her speaking, I thought she loves children and her priority is children, and I think that has to be #1 priority. So I was sold on her the minute she opened her mouth because of that alone. And you can tell that she is a very thoughtful person. So thank you.
Mr. Urso.
All right, I'm going to approach it slightly different and talk about the 2 of them first, and why I've enjoyed working with them. They're well educated, they're thoughtful, they're passionate, they're organized, and so you come into a meeting and you know what to talk about and why we're talking about those things, and you're not winging it. I think those attributes and showing up is a big piece. Being here tonight in front of the camera and talking through these things is critical. It's not easy to do this, and it's not always enjoyable to do these things, but you have to show up and be a part of it. And so I hope that some of their good attributes have rubbed off on me, and that I exhibit some of those things, because each of them both do that and do that well.
Great. I think we have exhausted the prepared questions, so I'm just going to, and we're almost out of time. It's almost been an hour here. But I'm going to just reiterate that Election Day is November 7th. We have still time to register to vote. Voter registration ends on October 10th. You can do it online after the forum here. Go on your phone and register to vote if you haven't. at voteohio.gov. And then early voting starts on October 11th and runs through November 5th. And that is done at the Board of Elections, or you can request a vote by mail ballot. So we will go reverse order from what we did with opening statements. I know we have 1 minute, but we have some time. If you want to go 2 minutes for a closing statement, by all means, go ahead.
I
Mr. Urso.
appreciate it. No, first off, thank you, the Chamber. Thank you, Mike, for mediating this. Over the last 8 years, I've had the honor and privilege to sit at the table and be a part of some important conversations. I hope the community has looked at the leadership that this board has undertaken under difficult and sometimes arduous times, and understand that our heart and our minds and our thoughts are in the right place. And beyond that, that our district is moving in the right direction. When we took office, the budget was shakier. I think I'm safe to say that. The climate was shakier. I think it's safe to say that. I remember being in this room, not as a board member, but as an observer prior to taking office, and there was unrest. There was a lack of trust, and there was a lot of turnover in our district within principals and staff that in our district we can't have. And so over the last 8 years, we tried to settle that and make sure that there's continuity and that our principals are staying, and that our upper staff are staying, and that we attract people to Middletown, talent to Middletown, to ensure our students have the best available to them. We're thoughtful leaders. We try to be thoughtful leaders in regards to the budget and understanding that our taxpayers deserve the finest amenities and that we take care of those things. And truly, I'm proud to be a part of this board because there is a true care for students. It's a student-centered a group of people who sit at this table. Ms. Stewart represents that, and Ms. Scheibert represents this. Ms. Mulligan and Mr. Moore represent this too. And I think with that, our district has a better chance to succeed. Without that, I think we're going to be fighting battles that lead us nowhere.
Great. Ms. Stewart?
So I have been sitting in this, filling this unexpired term for 11 months. It has been the greatest honor and pleasure to serve on this board. While I have not been elected, I still feel the gratitude from the community. I appreciate this opportunity more than people know. I appreciate the work that this board has done and continues to do. It is hard work. And guys, when I tell you they work really hard and give a lot of time and sweat and emotion into this job, that is the truth. We're here to serve the kids. We're here to serve the community. I want to thank everybody for their support over the last 11 months. I hope that I am elected. I look forward to serving over the next 4 years. I want to thank the Chamber for putting this on, because I know that's a job too. So I thank the Chamber, and thank you, Mike. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
All right, you get the final word, Ms. Scheibert.
I also thank Mr. Pierce and the Chamber for putting this on. It's a great opportunity, and I agree with what both of these people said. I think we're a child-centered board. We really are. I always wanted to put a little thing out. I never did it, but like, we're here for the children. That's it. That's our main purpose. And I have also found that this working on the board takes a tremendous amount of time, and you need to want to know more and more and more and more. Our leaders are a phone call away always. We have lots of resources. I find I want to look into things more. I want to know where things come from, why we're using them, what are the results, and that kind of stuff. So it takes your time. I had a lady ask me from another small community, what's it like being on school board? And she said, does it take a lot of your time? And I said, yeah, it really does. I mean, you give it the time you want, but to be effective, you better have time to research, to just find out what needs to be found out. I love visiting the schools. I do, we did that a lot with Mr. Stiles. Mrs. Hauser is getting ready to set up some things like that. It's wonderful to go into schools. The greatest compliment I think that I've had recently about being in the schools, it was one of the lower middle grades. There was a little boy working on math, and I leaned over to him and said, "Now, can you show me how you do that?" And he said, "Well, our teacher told us there are 3 ways, and I can show you any of them, but I'll show you the way I like the best." And I thought, if somebody would have told me that when I was learning math, I might have been a great math student, but I was given one way. And so I think that's what's happening in our schools, and I love it.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our forum. I would like to thank the candidates for participating. And again, Holly Snow and Charles Coakley, they were not able to be here for a conflict, but they are on the ballot. It is pick 3 of your candidates here for the school board, for those of the 3 seats that are up. Thank you for those who are here in attendance and those who are watching online. Again, Election Day is November 7th. And voting starts October 11th. Thank you.